Hey y'all. A while back, just after releasing the episode called Johnny and Lisa, I got together with Bob Motta from the great podcast called Defense Diaries, and we talked about the case and some of the details about it. This is that chat that we had. We cover this case, and man, I'm telling you, every time we get to chatting, it just keeps going. We'll end up talking about a little bit of everything in it. All of our conversations are fun, and yes, we do keep on topic, but we almost always end up talking about other things too. That's what we did in this episode. The main focus is the Johnny and Lisa case, so if you haven't listened to that episode yet, go ahead and stop this one and go back and listen to it, and then come right back after, and you'll get some extra insight on it. I originally released this for Patreon a bit ago. If you're not over on Patreon, you can expect to have stuff like this and more. Just really good stuff. And I love getting on and talking cases with Bob. So without doing a solo version of what me and Bob do, I'll go ahead and play what I have. Y'all have a good one. All right, welcome back to the show, y'all. And we've got a good guest with us today, Bob Motta, which we've had on the show before. And we're going to talk about a pretty screwed up ass case.
Yeah, it's a weird one, man. Like the fact pattern's really weird on it. And what's up, Brando? Good to hang again, man.
Yeah. I always love hanging out with you, talking with you, all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's always a good time.
Ditto. Same. Yeah. So you had kind of brought this case up to me. You're like, well, why don't we talk about this one? And I was like, yeah, I don't know much about it. And then, when I dug into it a little bit, it's a pretty weird case, man.
Yeah. I mean,
and I listened to your episode of it, as my first primer to kind of get me familiar with what was going on with it. Yeah. It's a weird one.
Yeah. It's like for my end of it, it's, I of course deal with the dispatch side and then the police side, a little bit of it, and just kind of hit that. But at the same time, there's so much on the back end that, the court documents and what actually happened in court, before court, all this stuff, and how these, two, well, they weren't kids. They were adults, but they were young adults. How they can just get murdered like that. And the real people don't really get blamed for it. They don't,
it's like, and it seemed kind of like a wrong place at the wrong time type thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I didn't get the sense that they were targeted. You know what I mean? Like it seemed like, at least, especially when I was listening to the dispatch calls, it seemed like to me, and for all y'all out there that don't know the case, we're obviously going to give you we'll save it. We'll talk about it after we get into the case, like some of the things going on. All right. So why don't you tell all of our listeners what's going on with this case, man?
This is what we do. We get on, we start talking, and it takes like 8 hours to make it a 5-minute,
true story. It's a true story, man.
All right. So, the case we're talking about is the Johnny Clark and Lisa Straub murders. On my feed, it happened. I put that episode out a couple weeks ago, I guess. And, this happened back in January of 2011. It happened, a long time ago, 12 years ago. Yeah. And, the way it all started out was essentially a friend of theirs, called a couple different people. They, she was on the phone with the guy, Johnny. And while she was on the phone with Johnny, she said she heard some sort of a commotion and heard him kind of arguing with someone. And then after that, the phone hangs up and they can't get back in touch with him at all.
Right.
They go over there and this is where it kind of gets a little bit mixed up. It's a little bit different. She says that she sees that the place has been ransacked and everything. And she ends up getting in touch somehow through a third party, another friend of theirs, with Johnny's mom, and she freaks out. She calls 911.
Big time freaked out, man.
She knows what it is.
So.
Yeah, she knows that there's something wrong, so she calls. Police go over there, and they're not able to find anything. That's kind of one of the reasons I wanted to have you on, is because of this, to have the PC, to have the probable cause to actually go inside that house to find out what's going on. They had nothing other than a
wellness check.
Yeah. It was a wellness check. And if that friend of theirs was out there, I don't even know if that's enough. Like saying, oh, I heard them on the phone and there was a scuffle inside. Yeah. There was a commotion of some sort. I don't even know if they can prove that they were absolutely 1,000% inside the house at that point.
Right. You know, I mean, in Illinois, at least, they have an exception, and most states have it, you know, in terms of if you walk in, if you're law enforcement, you walk in and there's a homicide, there's an exception to the warrant rule where you can start searching right away. Obviously, they're going to clear the house.
Yeah.
You know, but they can also collect evidence as well. But typically what happens is when they walk in, and if they do find bodies, you know, they're going to send somebody over to the judge while there's still guys over there processing the scene. They're going to call the crime scene analysts and the unit in to come and start collecting evidence and processing the scene. In the meantime, the dude's over in front of the judge getting the warrant, which obviously you're going to get because you have dead bodies. So, you know, but yeah, it was a weird one. And was it at her house, like Lisa's house?
Yeah, it was at Lisa's parents' house. So the police actually went out there the first time. They couldn't find anything that looked out of ordinary. They ended up leaving, and they said they couldn't do anything. A little while later, the mom goes over there, and while she's on the way, she calls for the police to go back out there again. And, you know, police go out there the second time. They talk to her. They talk to the friend. They talk to the dad. You know, several people are out there. Go around and look again. There's nothing they can't see through the blinds. They can't see inside. No unlocked doors. Nothing looks out of the ordinary. So again, they can't go inside. So,
right. And it's that situation because like the folks were like in Europe, right?
They were on a cruise. Actually, I think it was Puerto Rico.
So they were inaccessible though. Like they couldn't, it's not like the cops could have called and said, hey, you know, we need to be able to gain access to your house. We're worried that your daughter might be in peril or whatever. Like they were inaccessible. So they were kind of, their hands were tied.
Yeah. I'm sure if they were local enough, like say in the United States, say they were like Miami or something, because this happened in Ohio. If they were in Miami or something like that, they could absolutely just call them up and say, hey, we think there's something going on here. Can we gain access to your house? Any normal parent would be like, yes, please go inside the house.
100%. Totally.
Yeah.
If it was my kid, I'd be like, yeah, dude, kick the door and get in there.
Yeah. And that's kind of what happened with the police. As they were leaving, one of the officers, he talks to the dad and says, look, as police, I can't go inside right now. I can't tell you to go inside, but as a dad, I would tell you to wait until I go and then kick the door down and go inside. Right. And that's kind of what happened. They they found like a little crease in one of the blinds in the back. They had to boost somebody up to actually look through it. And they saw some feet and some ransacked stuff in that, like laying down on the ground. And so they went around, kicked the door, and they went inside. And when they got there, they found both Johnny and Lisa with Lisa and Johnny both had their legs taped up with duct tape. And Johnny had his hands bound behind his back. Both of them had plastic bags over their heads, and it was wrapped up around their necks really tightly with duct tape. So, that's how they found them. They called police back to the scene again. They go in there, start doing their investigation. And when they start looking at all this stuff, they start seeing like all this ransack stuff, but it's very specific. There's several rooms that have this, and other rooms were completely and totally untouched. Right. But one of the things, and this is really cutting down on a long story about this. One of the things about it is they said that the place overall, as far as evidence goes, like, fingerprints, DNA, stuff like that, it was ultra clean. So whoever it is came in, they probably had gloves on. They probably had, there's no telling exactly what they were doing to prevent their DNA and everything from showing everywhere. But they kind of hit a home run of sorts, kind of, when they found a smoked cigarette, like a cigarette butt, laying in one of the corners, and they got some DNA from it.
What a fucking genius, right?
Yeah.
Hey, all right, we're all going to wear gloves, and we're going to lock this shit down, man. We're not going to leave any DNA, and then some idiot fucking leaves a cigarette butt in the corner.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. It's like everything they went through, no fingerprints anywhere. There's just so much stuff. And and it's like they were obviously manhandling the kids. You know what I'm saying? To like leave nothing on the kids means that they were buttoned up in terms of, like they clearly were wearing gloves. They probably had long sleeves on. They probably had a hat of some kind on. So not as to lose hair. Yeah. All the things that you have to do to kind of protect from leaving DNA at a crime scene. If you're the one committing the crime, they appear to have done that. Except for old Sam, who flicked the cig butt over there. Yeah. Because it's like,
when I was watching the Discovery ID thing to kind of get more familiar with the case, they were talking about like they had some of the law enforcement guys on there asking, him the question like, well, tell us, like, give us a rational explanation of how your DNA could be at the crime scene. And I'm like, well, I mean, theoretically, if Johnny's got like boots on with like, and he's got like his, his soles have like, or the tread is like thick, he's got those like, I mean, you could step on a cigarette out on the street
and then bring it inside
and trail that and bring that shit inside. I mean,
yeah, I didn't even really think about that part of it, but yeah,
because I was trying to think of like, if I'm this dude, like, because that's really the only piece of evidence they had connecting that guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like there's, and then, we'll get into it, but he starts making the jail calls.
Yeah. That's where, so to kind of go through what they believe happened, and they kind of got this from different stuff. Once they actually picked him up, when they matched his DNA, it took months apparently to do this. And, when they actually went up to arrest him, they came up with U.S. Marshals, and they thought that, or he thought, anyway, that it was for some other charge that he had, because he'd been arrested several other times and domestic violence issues and all kinds of stuff. He was a violent person in the first place. Right. So when he, got arrested, he really thought it was for something else. He didn't think it was for this at all. Right. So that's what he says, at least. So they bring him in and start questioning everything. He's denying everything. Obviously, they hold him in jail for a little bit. And while he's in there, he gets bunked up with some dude who's in there for not paying his child support. And of all things, he's bunked up with this dude, like a double murderer. And he's bunked up with a dude with hadn't paid his child support. So, right. And that's some statutory bullshit. Yeah. Not a hardened criminal. Yeah. So, but when he's in there, he says that, the guy just poured his soul out to him and told everything he did that night. And, apparently the way that it went down via this guy, the guy that didn't pay his child support, he said that, he was the Sam guy, the suspect, says that he was kind of haunted by the sound it was making, because the way that they did it was they were there likely looking for something. There's speculation there was like a safe with maybe $100,000 in it. They're trying to torture them to, make them come out with wherever it was. And, that didn't happen. So they ended up bringing Johnny, set him down, bound his hands and feet. They brought Lisa in. They ended up putting a bag over her head, and they were holding it there until she passed out. Like they were face to face with each other, Johnny and Lisa. Right. So they were hoping that like she would talk if she's being tortured. He's looking at her being tortured, and, maybe he'll open up too or something like that. Right. So they did this 3 times. On the 3rd time that she passed out, she didn't wake back up. She didn't start breathing again. So she was dead. And I guess at that point they were like, okay, that we fucked up, and we can't leave a witness. Yeah. No witnesses. Yeah. They did the same thing to him. Both of them with the bags tightly wrapped around their head and neck with the duct tape and the, the autopsy. Trying to get my head here. It's all right. I couldn't remember what they call the bottom of a shoe. So you're good. Sole. There we go. Yeah. So anyway, with that, they said that it was a strangulation type thing, asphyxiation. So it's probably a combination of both the bag and just having the duct tape wrapped so tightly around like that. So it's just really harsh way to do any type of crime like that in the first place. I mean, you go up, and I'm not saying that any murder is okay, but if I'm the person getting murdered, I'd much rather have somebody put a gun to my head, pull the trigger, than being suffocated like this. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And especially with Johnny, he had to sit and watch his girlfriend have the life just drain out of her. Right. It's brutal, man. Yeah. And it's like, I clearly think that they were coming in, like you said, I don't know the specifics in terms of if these guys were like from around that same town and that they knew that they were going to be out of town. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like these little like kind of theft rings, they keep an eye on shit. Like it's no accident that the folks were on a cruise. Yeah. You know what I mean? I think that
they came into that.
Probably all knew each other.
Of course, that's what I'm saying. So, like, you know, they knew that the folks are going to be gone. They knew that there was legend had it, there was cash, a lot of it in that house.
Yeah.
So they were going in, and they were probably surprised by the kids, you know, unless your theory is that they knew the daughter was there and they were going to try to extract information. But usually, man, like, thieves aren't going in trying to kill people. You know what I mean? They go in and try to get, they want to get the goods and get out.
Yeah, but they actually ended up with this. It was, you know, Sam, and there was another guy named Cameo, and those were the two DNA pieces they had on that cigarette, and they ended up taking both to trial. And while they were at trial, the stool pigeon with the with the child support, he's the one that kind of made the case on top of the DNA, but on the Cameo on that side, he never got convicted of it. He actually got off. And
yeah, I think he was found not guilty. Like, I think that they felt like they didn't have enough, you know, that they just didn't have enough evidence against him. And it was like, cause they didn't have the statement. They didn't have the confession from, you know, the dude that was his cellmate. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, the only thing they had was the DNA.
Right. Which is not much.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, in terms of, it's a scary thing to convict on, because there's a lot of explanations of how that cigarette could have gotten on there, and they're not finding their DNA anywhere else.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, as a defense attorney, that would worry me.
Yeah.
You know, if these were my clients and if the guy's sitting there telling me, I didn't do this, man, I didn't do it. You know, but then you think about the legitimacy of this rat, you know, his cellmate. He doesn't really have a big motivation to lie. It's not like he's looking at a serious, like, prison bid, man. He's in there for, I don't know what the law is in Ohio, but like in Illinois, I think it's like 6 months max that they can keep you in jail on child support. Like, where you haven't, because like we don't have debtor's prison in the United States. Like, you can't typically go to jail for owing money. So like that, the child support is the one time where they can toss you in jail, and it's not, the way that they got around it is it's not because you owe the money. It's because you're not following a court order. They call it indirect civil contempt of court. So they hold you in there. And typically what they do, like in Illinois, on a case, if you got a dad who's got like 10, 15,000 behind in back support, they'll file what they call a rule to show cause. And that's to say, okay, you need to come in and tell the judge exactly why you're not following the court order. Is there a legitimate reason you're not paying support, or you're just like, forget it, man, I'm not paying support, you know? So, and you have to prove your case. You have to prove up to the judge that there's a legitimate reason that you're just not willfully not paying the support because you're like, screw the courts. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, and then if the judge finds that he is in willful contempt for not paying the support, then he'll say, all right, here's the deal. I'm going to set like a purge amount. All right. I'm going to sentence you to X amount of days in the jail, or I'm going to just sentence you to Kane County Jail, which is a county that we're primarily in. But I'm going to stay it. Meaning I'm not going to put you in right now. I'm going to stay it for 2 weeks. And if you can come up with $7,500, say they owe like 10 grand, you know, I'm going to commute that out. Like, it's going to go away. You're not going to have to go in. So they give them an opportunity to come up with the money before they toss him in. And most times they do.
Yeah.
Like, you know, with the threat of jail, people go to their friends and their family like, yo, man, I need to borrow some money.
Yeah.
like, I got to pay off this support or I'm going in, you know. So
yeah, I'm going to go in and end up next to a double murderer. Yeah.
Right, exactly. You know, like, my point being, this guy, you know, that went in on the support, this wasn't like a long-term thing. So where typically you worry about guys that are coming in and basically saying my cellie, you know, confessed to everything to me, is that they're trying to get a benefit for themselves.
Yeah.
Like, that didn't really exist for this guy. You know what I mean? Like, this guy, you know, I mean, what is he sweating? Like, you know, a couple months in jail, and he's going to rat some innocent guy out and make this whole story up? It seems unlikely to me.
Yeah. And that's, that actually is kind of a angle apparently the defense took on that, is that he was benefiting from it somehow, that he was going to, I think I'd have to look back at notes or article that I read.
I'm sure
about
it was something.
Yeah.
It had to have been like that kind of argument.
Yeah.
Like, he was looking, you know, that this was going to get him out of jail, you know, that he did them a solid. He closed this case for him, you know. So, but like, that's not a deal that like the family court judge, isn't going to give a shit about that.
Yeah,
like, because you got family court judges, and then you have like criminal court judges, and one does not have anything to do with the other. So whatever he did in terms of helping the cops close this case, those cops are never, ever getting to a family court judge saying, hey, this guy really took care of us on this case. Can you just waive that child support? And the judge would be like, no, this guy owes $10,000 in support. He's got to pay. He's not taking care of his kid. Yeah. Sorry. Like, no deal. You know what I mean? So like that argument sucks if that's what the defense brought. And it's really the only argument you bring. So I wouldn't be surprised at all that that's exactly what they said. It's always what you say. You get a stool pigeon in there or a rat on the thing, and they're going to say, oh, this guy's benefiting from it. You can't trust anything he says. And then they go through their criminal history. Can't trust this guy. He's a thief and a liar and a murderer, whatever that guy's done. So you destroy his credibility and say, what, now you're going to believe him because he's coming in here and he's going to get a benefit? Like, I don't know what this other cat's background was, but like, I'm not imagining it was anything horrific, like, beyond the child support stuff. But I don't know, maybe it's possible.
It is entirely possible, but at least for that one, it'd be different if he was in there for, armed robbery or, something like that. Like, he's going to get like years taken off of a sentence. That's a little bit different. But
totally different.
That's not the case
this was
here.
Not that.
Yeah,
exactly.
So back over to the cameo guy, he, apparently there was some sort of a Miranda, thing that happened with him. They didn't process him correctly. There was some sort of a weird thing. And, I did go through the court documents a little bit, but they were so different, so many different pieces to it. And, of course I'm no lawyer. I don't do that. So I don't know if you got a chance to kind of breeze through those or not, but.
Like, I wouldn't, because you sent me the thing about Cameo, and I didn't know that was it because they didn't have his first name. Because you were like, you sent me like 2 case sheets, and it was basically one of them was with Cameo. So I don't know what the grounds were, but like, if it's a Miranda issue, it's more likely than not going to be a statement that he made that they suppressed.
I think that's probably what one of it was.
Yeah, because with Miranda, that's typically. That's what you're looking to seek. If there's been a violation, if you're defense, I'm looking to if my guy made a statement, I'm going to say, look, you didn't Mirandize him. You didn't let him know that he had the right to remain silent. So he wasn't aware of that, right? So I'm guessing that's what it was as to that. The bottom line is with that guy, though, it still made it to trial.
Yeah.
Like the prosecution still made the decision to move forward and try the case. With both of these guys, as kind of co-conspirators in the whole thing. And at the end of the day, as to Cameo, they just felt like, I guess the jury didn't feel like the state had met their burden, and that's what I'm saying. Like that, without that statement from the cellie, Sam's walking too. Like, you don't want people getting convicted on, like, they found a cigarette butt with DNA on it, because the cigarette butt's not even really related to the kids.
Yeah, and they can never nail down an absolute 100% motive on it either. So
exactly. Yeah, exactly. And it's like in the Discovery ID show, they had a lot of those phone calls that they were recording where Sam was calling a friend, then he called his wife, and his wife is the one who's like, oh, I talked to your cousin, and your cousin said that you were at a birthday party at a bar that night. So the cops then go and try to check that alibi out. That doesn't check out.
Yeah.
But the cops are like, the cops say something like, oh, well, he was not lying to us, or he wasn't being truthful with us. Well, he didn't say anything. Like, he did an overhear of a jail call. Like, he didn't say he was there. His wife said his wife said his cousin said he was there. And then he's like, because on that phone call, like, this dude's like, is he sure I was there? Like, he had no memory of it. Like, he didn't seem like, because, like, do you know what was the gap in terms of, like, how long from the time of the crime until
the arrest? Like,
the arrest is made.
I think it was like 8 months. And the Sam guy, he says he was essentially homeless at that point. That's one of the things that he kind of claimed. He said he was kind of bouncing around to different friends' houses and stuff like that. And he had, like I said, domestic violence type stuff in the past. And, I can't recall if it was him or the other guy I think it was actually the other guy that was like married, but, I guess they theoretically could have both been married. I didn't look quite deep into
on that show, on the Discovery ID, like, they definitely said that he called his wife. So then, like, when you were saying that thing about him being homeless, I'm like, wait, the dude was like like on a phone call with his wife.
Yeah, it's probably split or something like that, or it could have happened. I guess, maybe they were apart when all that was happening. I don't know. Of course, at the same time, could have been his trying to be an alibi, I guess,
right?
Just flat out saying, "No, I don't remember where I was." And then there was a talk about him being at a bar watching the Pro Bowl that day, and I don't know. None of it really matched up so well.
Yeah, and they ended up ultimately at the end of the day, the cops went and tried to check out the alibi with respect to, whether or not the guy was at the bar.
Yeah.
Obviously bartenders are going to have a pretty good idea if somebody was there. Probably went and talked to the cousin. Cousin probably got nervous, like, yeah, man, maybe he wasn't there. I don't know. I'm not trying to get picked up on my own shit by making up a fake story for this guy. So, ultimately, he had no alibi, so it's like they couldn't really put him anywhere, in terms of him having a solid alibi, and they do at least have his DNA in the house. And then you have, this guy coming in where this guy's because the way they said it on the show was like, it was like a confessional, like that he was just spilling his guts, like every detail about it to the guy, and and the cops are going to know the details of the crime. Right. So like, there's no way that this guy's going to be able to come up with details if he has that many details, unless Sam told it to him.
Yeah. And
you know what I mean?
That's one of the best points right there. He would have no way to know that.
Out of whole cloth. No way to know. Exactly. Unless the guy's telling you.
Yeah.
Because there's going to be shit that's going to be in the paper, but the cops are smart enough not to put a majority of stuff in the paper. And that's one of the things that, I'm always talking about. Like, people are like, why don't they tell us what's going on? I'm like, because of that.
Yeah.
They can't have information out there. If they're still trying to make an arrest, they're not going to put any information out to the public other than what they like carefully comb through and decide, all right, this is something we want to disseminate, but they're doing it for a purpose. They're doing it because they're trying to draw something out. Like they did the same thing with the Idaho 4 case with the Bolo, with the car.
Yeah.
Like they already identified whose vehicle the dude owned that Elantra, because like that was found out on November 29th. And the Bolo doesn't come out until December 7th. And that was a nationwide Bolo. But that wasn't like, they knew that nobody else was going to come forward because they knew who owned the car. They did that to see if he was going to come forward.
Yeah.
That's why they did it, because they didn't want to go to him directly and be like, yo, man, like, we know your car, like, because they weren't there yet. Like, they didn't have everything they needed at that point. So for them to go to him and have him lawyer up right away would have been a bad move. They wouldn't have been able to continue to investigate him in the same way that they were. So the best move for them was to issue that Bolo and see what he does. If he comes forward and says, yo, yeah, I saw this thing on the TV, man, and, you guys are looking for this car. Yeah, that was me.
Yeah.
I was there. I was driving around that area that night, and, I was like, well, what are you doing? Well, I was trying to score some Molly or whatever he's doing, come up with some shit. But when he doesn't, and everyone knew about that, like everybody on the planet knew about that Bolo, that it was that type of case. This wasn't one of those cases where that's going to slip under the radar. Like, it was just too high publicity. Everyone knew about that case. So they knew that this guy knew. And, there's that concept that if he's the guy, he definitely knew, because he's following that shit like a vulture online, day by day, seeing what news is out there. That's why we live in such a different world. Like back in the old days, criminals had no idea what was going on. Now, you just go on the internet. Like, if you're a criminal, you've done some horrible shit, you're going to go online and figure out, like, see what's going on with the case, see if there's been any leaks, see if there's been any, has anybody come forward? Has there been any developments that the press has caught wind of? Like, all those things exist now where they didn't back then. So, yeah, I mean, I think that thing holds up pretty well,
Yeah. Yeah.
In terms of that statement from the guy.
Yeah. I don't think they can try to throw some fluff up at it and say, he got some sort of benefit or whatever. I just don't see that happening. Even if they were trying to like pay him off or something like that, I don't see that happening. I just don't.
Yeah, me either. So, all right. So I opened this thing up and it looks like, Cameo Petaway is his last name. Yeah. That there were a few different issues. One of the ones, that seemed to weigh heavily on the court was the fact that Petaway's IQ was very, very low.
Oh, see, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it says that his IQ, like, I don't want to really say it because they worded it improperly. They called it mentally retarded, but like that's not the proper terminology in today's day and age. This was written like 12 years ago, this opinion. So they haven't caught up with the times. But he had a very, very low IQ, which means that he didn't have the ability to understand when they gave him the Miranda waiver that he didn't know what he was reading.
Yeah. So that's actually a good point right there.
Yeah, that's exactly what the issue was. So by way of that, whatever statement he made got tossed. So that's what happened with him.
Yeah.
And there was a little bit of a conflict of interest with the judge, it looks like.
Well, see, that's kind of the weird part about that too. Like even with him having the low IQ and being classified like that, what he was, he's still, from everything I've read about, he's still a career criminal. He's been in several different fights with his girlfriend / wife, was sent away to prison for that for a little bit. And he's, as far as I know, he's currently in prison or in jail awaiting trial because he shot some dude. Right. So even though he got off from the murder of these two, boyfriend, girlfriend, Johnny and Lisa, even though he got out from that, he's still sitting in prison and is probably going to just continue doing the same thing over and over again the rest of his life. Yeah.
And he struck me as a bad dude.
Oh yeah.
Like they had like a couple of calls with him and just like sounding, like the way that they were talking to each other. He's like, you could tell they were career criminals, like the both of them.
Oh
yeah. Like Sam wasn't a good dude either.
Oh,
like,
not at all.
No, you know what I mean? They were both pieces of shit. So like ultimately, but it doesn't necessarily make them murderers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then like for justice for the kids, we obviously want the right people getting caught. Like I just, neither of those guys struck me as dudes that are like really bright.
No.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like they didn't strike me as guys that are like, all right, dude, we got to like, we're going to get into this house and we got to be gloved up. Like we're not going to leave any DNA. We're not going to leave any trace type shit. And then they go in, turns out that the kids are at the house. They're taken by surprise. They got to figure out a way, are they running around to find the duct tape in the house?
That's one of the other things too. Like apparently the parents of Lisa said that they didn't even have any duct tape in the house. So
that's what I'm saying. So are they coming to that's weird. You know what I mean? So maybe they are expecting the daughter to be there for the purposes of giving him a combo to the safe.
Yeah.
Like she would know that. My kids don't know my safe combo.
Yeah.
Kidding me? My 16-year-old be all like, bzz, 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 stealing a hundo out of there.
Yeah.
What? What are you doing? So yeah, because I was thinking about that aspect of it, like with the duct tape type thing, man. I'm like, are you digging around their house while you're trying to control two kids from escaping? Or do you come with it? Which if they came with it would indicate that they knew that she was home at the very least.
Yeah.
So they may not have known that he was going to be there, but they certainly knew that she would be there.
And
or at least
like Johnny, for instance, he was actually a bigger guy. He was like, I think like around 6 foot tall and around 200
stocky.
pounds. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they actually believed that there was more than just the two of them there. There was speculation of a third guy, and I can't recall what his name was, but they never could do anything. Like the limited amount of evidence they had against Sam and Cameo, they did not have anything on this other guy. They couldn't pin that dude. Yeah, they couldn't pin that down. And truth be told, if you look at this big of a guy, it could probably take more than 3.
Yeah, for sure. Especially if the kid's like motivated.
Yeah.
Like if they don't have a piece, like if they don't have a gun and they're, it's not trained on the kid.
Yeah, and that actually may have been the case, yeah.
It could have been, but, it kind of goes to that point that you were making. It's like, that's a brutal way to kill somebody in terms of suffocation. And like, you're kind of, because you're like watching it happen.
Yeah.
And it's prolonged. You know what I mean? As the perpetrator even. And, like I said, just because they're thieves doesn't necessarily make them murderers unless it happens on necessity. It sounds like, if that was the case there, that they're trying to extract information out of. Like, I'm curious as to whether or not they ever found the safe. Like, did they?
No, and this is one of the things that's kind of up in the air. The one of the theories is the money, the $100,000, which hardly anyone, if you really think about it, would keep $100,000 inside of a safe inside their house. It's gonna be in a bank somewhere, unless they're doing something illegal. And the speculation was that Lisa's parents were drug dealers of some sort, possibly. It was never founded, so I mean, it may or may not have happened. They did find some, like when they're looking around for evidence, they found some seeds for marijuana there. And later on, later on, like it seems like everybody connected with this, they were all touching drugs of some sort, some way. The 911 calls, and, if you wanted to listen to those, obviously check my episode about it out. The friend that was over there, I believe her name was Destiny or something along that lines. She actually said that she saw all the stuff ransacked and everything. So the parents, Johnny's parents, believe that she either had something to do with it, likely either had something to do with it, set it up, maybe something. I don't know exactly what it was, but they believe that she had something to do with it. And then years later, they created a plan, and they were going to go and kill her. They went and followed her into a back alley, and the dad shot at her, nearly hit her in the head. Luckily she got away, but they actually both got arrested for that. And,
Johnny's parents?
Yeah,
did?
Johnny's parents did.
Wow.
Yeah. So it goes deep. And when, like, Johnny's dad, when they actually went to the house, his mom lied and said he's not there. And turns out he was hiding in the back bedroom. When they found him, they found some marijuana and some other paraphernalia on him. So there was drugs all around, depending on what form. I mean, it might be smoking weed or something like that. I don't know, but it could have been way more than that. But in general, most people, legitimate people, don't keep $100,000 in the safe in their house. You can, but most people don't.
Yeah, you can. Well, I mean, it better be like built in. Better not be like something you can just pick up and carry out of the spot.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Somebody might as well not have a safe then. Yeah, I mean I don't know if their theory's crazy. I mean, it definitely sounds like it was an inside job.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I could completely see that Destiny chick. Is that what you said her name was? Destiny?
Yeah, it was Destiny. I'm sitting here.
Something like that. So that makes sense to me. Like she'd be the one in the know.
Yeah.
Like she'd be the one that could like give intel. Like, oh yeah, like I'm over here, let's pretend like in a world that these folks are dealers. Maybe it's not even cash they're going at. Maybe they have a stash.
Yeah.
I mean, drug dealers like try to rip off, other drug dealer stashes all the time, man. That's a thing. I mean, that's money.
The only thing that was stolen from the house that they absolutely know about was $40 that was left for Lisa to buy pizza with while her parents were gone. It was in like a change jar. They put 220s in there. That was taken. There was some I think like Iraqi money in there somehow. Like I think they're called dinar maybe or something like that. That wasn't taken. There was jewelry there. That wasn't taken. I guess that's, jewelry obviously is going to be a little bit more traceable.
Yeah. I mean, if they're going to go pawn it, man, cops always go right to the pawn shops right away and try to figure out what's what with that. So yeah, that doesn't, I don't think that they're nuts thinking that she was somehow involved and was the one that was given the information that, number one, that the parents were gone. Number two, that this is what you can get in here. I mean, there's got to be inside intel. Some way. That's why I was asking if they were all from like the same town. Yeah. Like how's that information? It's like when you think about the old Home Alone movie, they would always go and rob during like Christmas time when they knew that people were leaving and not going to be in their property for an extended period of time. So they knew that they had free reign. It's kind of the same concept here, except it seems like that they were specifically looking for something in particular, which to me tells me that they had inside intel, that somebody had said something to them like, this is what they have here. You can come get it. I just want my cut. Yeah. You know what I mean? That type of deal.
Whoever it was that did this, it was, obviously, well, I want to say, obviously it's most likely these two guys and maybe a third or fourth. They went inside there and they went to specific rooms and they turned mattresses over. They were looking in dresser drawers and dumping them out all over the place. And then other rooms completely untouched. Yeah. So they were specifically looking for a specific place.
Yeah. And a specific thing, whether it be cash or drugs, whatever the case may be, I mean, it's like, like you said, who knows? And, we don't necessarily want to cast shade on these folks and speculate, but, I mean, clearly there was something there, or at least they thought there was something there, and it was told to other people who then decided to come and run this gig. And in that aspect of it makes me think that they thought that Lisa might be there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, that's why they brought the duct tape. They knew they were going to have to try to extract some information out of her. But then again, I'm assuming they had masks on to hide their identity.
You would think.
You would think, like, because I just don't know if they're coming in with the intent on killing. Like, I mean, that's just, it makes everything way, way more serious, in terms of the crimes that are.
I don't think they did either.
Yeah, I think it was a robbery went bad.
Yeah.
And like they weren't expecting Johnny to be there, and that was an X factor. And, then it turns into a horrific double homicide. They don't find shit.
Yeah.
It's like it was a bad job all around.
Yeah, kill two people for $40 essentially.
I mean, wow.
Yeah.
It's brutal. It's
hard shit. Yeah.
It is, man.
But, like I said, the parents, they got arrested. They apparently got sentenced to some jail time. Nothing happened with this. I keep saying Destiny. I'm horrible with names like that. I get them mixed up.
So am I, especially when I've never read them.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Like I have no idea what her name is. So I'm just going with, I mean, Destiny sounds good to me.
Yeah, that works.
I mean, yeah.
But
it sounds as good.
Nothing really happened with her from what I can tell. And, the two guys that likely did this, they're still in jail, for different reasons. And then this third one or fourth one, I mean, they're still out on the streets more likely, walking around free to go.
I mean, probably with no hopes of ever, getting them either, short of this guy, trying to cut a deal and trying to cut some years off his sentence, Sam, and he rats these guys out, but, he was talking big about how he's not a rat, like that's what some of those conversations with him and Cameo, when he's calling from the jail phone, which he knows is, being recorded, and, he's basically saying things to that effect. Like, we hold tight, man. We don't say shit. You know? And he's like, yeah, I know. That type of stuff, those conversations go. Cause I mean, clearly they had a little crew, so, I mean, you hope that they got the right guy.
Yeah.
It's like that. It's not great evidence, but apparently it was enough. And that statement's pretty strong.
Yeah. And the Cameo guy, like on the court end of it too, he apparently is the whole double jeopardy thing was enacted with him. Can't be tried for that again. He's not going back to trial for it. I mean, I'm kind of wondering though, if they ever do find, and I'm not even sure if they're still investigating this at all. They're probably not because it's been so long, but if, they found some other type of crime involved with it, like instead of just murder, because I think from what I can gather, that's the only charge they did. It could have been something else, but if there's like, they can find stuff for a robbery or something like that, they could tie him down for that later on, I guess, couldn't they?
Probably not.
Really?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm thinking they definitely would have charged them both with kidnapping.
Yeah.
For certain. So it would have been murder, kidnapping.
Yeah, I'd have to look to see.
Probably like here they call it home invasion. It's like home invasions where you go in with the intent on committing a felony, whether it be a violent, like here, if you have a weapon when you go in, it's home invasion. Or if you're going in with the intent to commit a felony, it's burglary. You know what I'm saying? So like all those different charges probably were charged at that time.
Yeah.
It would be tough, man. I mean, because at the end of the day, they're better off just trying to get this turd on something else instead of trying to fight that fight and trying to get around the double jeopardy stuff.
They've done that with him shooting that other dude. So yeah.
Exactly. So they, and
actually
they got
looking
him.
through, trying to find a little piece of my notes here. Eric Taylor was a guy. They apparently the stool pigeon, the rat there in jail. He told, and again, this is another thing. Just kind of going to your point. How would he know? He has names. He gave names of him, Sam Williams, Cameo Petaway, and then another apparently East Side guy. I guess they all were from the east side of that town. Named Eric Taylor. And they were all the killers. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's a pretty good statement. And I'm sure he had more facts than that too. Like if this guy was spilling his guts as to exactly what they did and how it all went down, I'm sure this guy had all of it, which makes it a Very powerful statement. Like it survives the stink test big time, you know?
Actually, I'm looking through this and I don't know what truth there is to this piece here, because I'm looking at a different article here. It actually says that they learned that the guy's name is Eric Yingling, the guy that was in jail with him. They said that he was paid thousands of dollars after he testified against Williams, but it doesn't say by who. So I don't know if there's any truth to that or not.
Who's saying that? Now somebody's saying this guy got paid off thousands of dollars.
Yeah, this news article I'm looking at.
That sounds it sounds like some defense lawyer shit there. Oh, this guy got $3,000 payment for making the statement.
Yeah.
So that's what they came at him with, that this guy got paid off. He got like somehow he got out of jail on his, being held on his child support because he came up somehow miraculously with the exact amount that he needed to pay to get purged out.
Yeah.
Is probably what the argument was. Like, he had to pay like $3,500 to get out, and somehow he came up with it while he's in jail, and somehow he comes up with it. But still, it doesn't take away the fact that the guy knew details that he wouldn't know otherwise unless this guy said something to him.
Exactly. I mean, I guess,
you know what I mean?
Theoretically, they could say that he was fed that information, but there was too many very intricate details. Like the thing that stood out to him, they actually said, was that Sam was haunted. He says he was haunted by the sound that the bag was making as Lisa was breathing, trying to breathe inside of it.
Sucking
plastic
into like
bag,
what's going on. Yeah, that would be brutal, man. That would be brutal. Which kind of goes to show, the Sam probably wasn't like a murderer. Like it wasn't his real gig, like this, like if he's haunted, at least he has a conscience.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? At least to some extent. But yeah, I guess I didn't really think of that fact. I guess one way that he could have gotten the information is the cops could have easily taken that guy out of his cell and said, look, we need your help on this thing. We'll make sure that you get taken care of on this support thing.
Yeah.
And, we're going to give you some details. You're going to have to come in. Like it would have to come from the cops if it.
Yeah, absolutely. It would have had to, if not from Sam. Yeah.
If not from the dude. Yeah. So, but in a case like that, where they don't have the strongest evidence, it's possible. It's possible the cops came at him and said, look, you're his cellie. I mean, we know they do that. Like I know that they plant guys in jail that are actually cops all the time to try to get jailhouse confessions. So, it's certainly something that happens. Like going to where the cops are pulling him out and having him sit with the warden, or whoever's running the county jail and saying, look, these officers need to talk to you for a minute. And then they leave him in the room with the cops. And the cops are like, look, we know you're sitting here on this bullshit and you want to sit in here for 6 months, or you can help us out. And, we know this is the guy.
Yeah.
Like we know this is the guy, but we need a little extra help because, we need this one extra piece of evidence. And then maybe they talk the guy into it. So, that's distinct. It's a distinct possibility.
Yeah.
It's speculation, but it's one of those two things happened.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way. Like somehow this guy got like accurate information. And, because if I'm the defense counsel and I'd been digging into that case, and it's really hard. Like I'd have the opportunity to go try to interview that guy, beforehand, but he's not going to talk to me. Like it's his defense counsel. It's really hard to get witnesses to talk to you because the state like shuts them down. Like they can't tell a witness not to talk, but they can tell them, look, you don't have to talk.
Mm-hmm.
And then once they hear that from the state, people feel like empowered and they're like, oh, no, I don't have to talk to you.
Yeah.
Because people don't know. Like, you know what I mean? It's like if people aren't told that they don't have to talk, they think that they have to. Anytime like law enforcement or a criminal case is involved and somebody says a lawyer's calling you, you think that you're obligated to talk about it. And the reality is you're not, like, ever. You know what I'm saying? Even if you're a witness, you have no obligation to talk about it. Like they can't force you to talk about things. So yeah, I don't know. But I would have definitely been digging in and trying to see, like, if this guy had been taken, like, I would have been going to my client and been like, yo, I need you to think about this hard. Like, do you ever remember, like, that guy getting, like, the guards coming down and say, yo, we need you for a while. And then they take him out of your cell. Do you remember that happening? Like, in order to try to kind of rebut the fact that they're saying that he confessed to you, like, you've got to try to build it like that, because you're not going to be able to get the information from the police or the jail in terms of whether or not the guy like was pulled out of his cell and went to go talk to the investigators on the homicide. I mean, Yeah, it's interesting though. Whatever the case may be. I mean, I just hope he's the right guy because there's not much evidence.
It just seems like there's too many boxes that have been checked, that seem like, plus the fact that there's nobody else. They had this other dude, Eric Taylor, apparently, and the police said they never really found enough evidence. He wasn't like a strong suspect, that type thing. So even if they thought he was in there, they couldn't pin it down on him, but they could have, if they were just looking for someone to take the fall for it, could have found anybody. They could have
totally,
but they didn't. They found people with a connection that,
Well, they at least had the SIG with the DNA.
Yeah.
Like that was the connection. But this girl's the X factor. Like if they could find like this girl who the family felt was the one who put these guys in the know in terms of what was in that house or potentially in that house, and they're squeezing her hard to try to figure out, like I'm talking about law enforcement being like,
they actually did. There was about a half-hour interview, and it's able to be viewed on YouTube even, the entire thing. They questioned her all kinds of different ways, and her story does kind of change a little bit. I mean, I do have a feeling that she had at least a small piece of this, but it was never enough that they could absolutely tie it down.
Well, were they able to at least make that she had a connection or knowledge of these guys, like that she knew them?
Oh yeah. They were apparently, friends of some sort. And there was a bunch of back and forth stuff. Like, even Johnny and Lisa, as much as everybody sees, they're like all their smiling faces on the pictures and stuff like that. They were kind of underhanded as well. There's apparently two different stories where, one of them like bought a dog from somebody and only paid them half the money and never paid the rest. Same thing with a car that was bought for like $1,500, only paid $750, never did pay back the rest. There's a lot of stuff. Johnny himself, he apparently, before all this happened, his dream was to become a barber. Apparently he wanted to open up his own barber shop and he was going to school for it. But there's a reason he was doing that, not going to college or something, because he apparently, like, it was an armed robbery he did against some guy. So, I mean, all of them were dirty in a little way.
Yeah. So they all had a little bit of dirt in the past. All right. Yeah. I mean, so that kind of makes sense. I mean, theoretically,
it doesn't make it okay.
Right. It 100% doesn't make it okay. But in terms of like, the way that it ended up with Johnny and Lisa, even if they knew this crew to some extent, like it wasn't like it was like it was an inside job like that, because then why are they ending up dead?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like if Lisa's of the mindset, like, all right, my parents have a shit ton of money in this house, I can't be the one who does it, because they're like, if there's not like a crime that takes place and the money goes missing, they're going to know it was me, like that I stole from my own parents. So like in theory, I'm just thinking this thing out, like how it could have worked out, like where you've got a lot of people with knowledge and it's kind of like you got that inside person, whether it be this friend or whether it be Lisa herself. And then it turns out that they get there and, they're like, they either don't find something or they do find. It would make more sense if they had found $100,000 and then the other dudes are like, yeah, I don't know if we can leave these two alive. You know what I'm saying? Like it's too big of a risk, or we got $100,000 and I don't want to give them their cut type deal.
Yeah. Could have been that.
What I'm saying? Like what, but it could have been anything like that.
Yeah. You think about it, the whole cut piece of it. I mean, Lisa couldn't she was apparently still living there with her parents. She just up and had like, oh, I've got an extra $10,000 when I work at, what is it, TGI Fridays, I think is where she worked at. No, that doesn't happen.
Take like 15 years to get $10,000 at that gig.
Yeah,
you know what
exactly.
I'm saying?
Save it up. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. It's, there's a lot of weird little pieces to it. It's an interesting case. Like I remember hearing it. Like I knew the details. Like, man, where did I hear? I remember I hadn't listened to much of Sword in the Scale. Like I think one of the few episodes I've ever listened to was actually this case.
Okay.
Like that's why I rang a bell, because I think that he did an episode of it, because I remember the part about the mom freaking out and screaming that like she knew that the kids were in that house.
Yeah.
And that she had called twice and the cops had come out there and they wouldn't do anything. And that ultimately that the husband ended up like getting into the house and discovering the kid, right? I mean, so like that's the part that I remember from the story, because I was like, man, why is this case ringing a bell? And I think that was it. And I had listened to it like a year ago.
Yeah.
Like I was walking my dog or something like that. So yeah, it's an interesting case. It's a tragic one though, for certain.
Yeah. And one of the things I said on my episode about it is I've got a feeling that this is not going to be the last thing that we hear about it. I think because of the kind of criminal background that it seems like almost all of them have, like everybody involved, even parents and stuff like that, we'll probably still hear more about this coming from the years, coming up to us, that 4 or 5 years from now, somebody else involved in this gets arrested, or they get arrested again, or maybe the Destiny chick or whatever her name was, maybe she actually finally does get, killed because they found out that she had something to do with it, or arrested.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if I'm the family, like trying to kill her, it's probably not what I'm trying to do. I'm probably trying to extract information from her. It's like, what use is she to anybody if she's dead? You know what I mean? It's like, you're not going to be able to get the info. Like she could be one of the only people out there that would potentially be willing to talk about who everyone was involved. It's like the family's concerned about getting everyone that was involved. Like, to me, killing somebody that might have the information you need seems like a really bad move, but maybe that's just me.
Yeah. The more I read about it too, like after I put out the episode, I mean, I did find out about the parents trying to shoot her. And afterwards I found out that apparently there was a sheriff's deputy or someone in the sheriff's department that apparently helped them to do that. So, I mean, he got arrested, and I think he got sentenced to 4 years as well. So
wow,
it goes deep. It keeps getting deeper and deeper everywhere you go to.
It sounds deep, man. And not in a good way.
Yeah.
I mean, it typically never is though, when you're getting that deep, it's definitely getting dirty down there when you get into the, into the depths. So yeah, it doesn't surprise me. Yeah. And like, I have no idea where Sam's at in his appellate process. He's 12 years in. He's probably pretty far into it. He's probably exhausted his appeals, and, all he'd have left now would be like PCRA, PCRA petitions. So
yeah,
because after you like get through your appellate stuff, like that's kind of your last, and typically you need newly discovered evidence in order to, but with the advancements in DNA, I mean, if anybody, like, the problem is, like, if this guy doesn't have anybody advocating for him, like if this guy's actually innocent, but to me, it sounds like he's not. It sounds like I think the more likely scenario is that he ran with this Cameo's crew. I think there was a crew of them, and that he might not have been there the day that took place, and like he had bummed like Cameo a short, like a half smoked cig. Yeah. He's like, hey man, let me get that short. And like Cameo had it in his cigarette pack, and he smoked it at the spot and flicked it over into the corner, and it's got both their DNA. Like, how are both their DNAs on the cig?
Yeah, that's one of the things. And it actually kind of goes back to the whole, him saying that he was homeless or whatever like that. But at the same time, he says that he was homeless, living in different people's places. I did read a piece of an article that says he was like a heavy smoker, like 3 packs a day, that type thing. Right. So, the cigarettes were kind of always, but never in a short supply. So, I mean, totally, it could have been that he didn't have that much money, just enough to buy us 3 packs a day. Back then in 2011 was Ohio, probably $4 a pack, $5 a pack or something like that. So it's not like a drug addiction. Well, I mean, I guess, drug addiction. I
mean, it's totally a drug addiction. It's probably the most addictive drug next to heroin. Like, nicotine's pretty bad, man. It's like, I've been trying to kick it for a long time. I'm now down to like I'm off the smoking of all varieties and vaping, and now I'm back to like, it's come full circle. So I'm not doing like the chew or like the dip, which is what got me hooked back in high school when I was, playing football. I used to dip. So that got me hooked onto the nicotine. And then in college, I'm like, oh, well, can't talk to girls with dip in your mouth. So I started smoking, and then I did that forever. And now like it's come full circle. So now, but this doesn't actually have tobacco in it. It's just got the nicotine, but I'm still hooked on it. Yeah. It's like the only thing I'm still addicted to is nicotine. It's disgusting.
Hearing something the other day, and this is completely off topic. Apparently the tobacco and the chemicals and stuff like that apparently is the bad part. Apparently, other than being addictive, nicotine is actually not that bad for you. Apparently, I don't know what kind of truth there is to that. It's all the other stuff that's cancerous and stuff, but apparently there's some benefits for nicotine of some sort. I don't know that I believe that, but you know.
I think that it makes sense. I mean, you're definitely, the carcinogens from smoking is definitely coming from the tobacco, not like the nicotine, which is an additive.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. I mean, I could buy it potentially.
Yeah, sitting here trying to look through and try to find more about the conviction and when he's going to get off and stuff like that. Actually, it says he was convicted life with no chance of parole.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, his only shot is if they come up with more evidence, like if they somehow, you know, and that's what I was kind of getting into. Like if he had somebody fighting for him, like if he could get, like, if he's like, look, I didn't do this, and he got an Innocence Project to say, all right, we'll look at it, we believe you, and they start digging in, and then, you know, they're fighting to get, like, that's what I was saying, like DNA has advanced so much now as to what it was in 2012.
Yeah.
You know, and to me, the fact on how these poor kids were killed was so violent, and there was just so much hands-on. You know what I'm saying? This isn't like a gun, you know, like where they're shot from a distance, or even if it's a contact wound to the head or whatever. You know, I mean, they had to have hands on them. So to me, it's likely that there'd be some kind of DNA somewhere on either of the kids, to where if somebody came in and said, all right, look, we're going to test whatever DNA that they found on the kids that they didn't test back then, you know, just because, and we don't know, like, I don't know what they tested. I mean, obviously they tested the SIG, you know, so we're assuming they tested other things as well, and they must not have gotten hits, you know, because like you were saying, they didn't get the hit on this guy right away off the cigarette.
Well,
butt,
apparently
right?
they, from what I've seen, and this is another police document, they actually went through. They had a ton of DNA. It was all over the place, but they didn't have any that matched anything.
See, that's what I'm saying. Well,
the only piece that they had that matched anything was that cigarette butt. Like, they ran it through when it was, you know, an exact match for both those guys. And
because he was in CODIS. Yeah. Right. So, yeah, that's what I mean, man. There's a ton of DNA.
Yeah. And I was just seeing here that apparently it says that he was charged 3 times, the Williams guy, 3 times for domestic violence. And I'm reading this from WTOL. 2006, he was found guilty of threatening to kill the victim. 2007, he's involved in a fight and charged with felonious assault after punching a man. 2010, he was found guilty of pushing his ex-wife to the ground and biting her wrist. And in 2011, before his arrest for the murder, he was found guilty of going to his ex-wife's place, kicking in the door, and then threatening to send the woman in his car. Apparently, he had somebody in his car to go inside and beat her up. Wow. So yeah, he was a violent guy, but not necessarily a
murderer.
Yeah. He's done an interview from prison since then and says that he was a pimp, a drug dealer, but he was never a killer.
Yeah. I mean, he might be telling the truth.
Maybe,
you know,
I don't know. Too many things just going to line up, I believe.
I know if he was a better guy, I might go down there and fight for him, but he sounds like he was kind of a turd.
Yeah,
so
it absolutely was. Yeah.
I'll let him sit in there. I'm not going to waste my time on that guy.
I don't think I would either.
Yeah. All right. Good. You got me off that ledge. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm glad I could help out with it.
Appreciate it.
All right. Well, I think we've done about an hour here, so that's a good little chat back and forth on this. And
I think it's good.
Yeah. If you want more information about it, there's a 1,000 different places out there to do it. Of course, listen to my episode about it. And you're going to put this on, I believe you said the docket. So, Music City 911 listeners, head over there, listen to the docket. You know, this is good stuff. You know, Bob, and I guess your wife, Allison, she comes on and helps you out with some of the stuff too. And it's, you know, just back and forth, really good stuff. I mean, it's way more detailed than I know.
It's different than the serialized stuff, you know, cause that's just me, like, it's a great too, you know, it's scripted. It's different, you know, it's like there you get kind of more of this thing where you got couple people chatting, and Allison, who's my wife and also my law partner. So, you know, she tried cases with me for a long time. So we definitely bring something different to the table, and people seem to really, really dig it, you know, and it was cool. It was cool for us to do it, cause we dug into that Vallow case pretty hard with it. And it's, you know, but we cover all the breaking news type stuff, you know, but we do it from kind of the lawyer's angle.
Yeah.
You know, so it's interesting. Yeah. And we enjoy doing it.
Same way I do it with mine. I like hitting on the breaking news stuff when the 911 calls are available. I try to get on those when they, you know, get on when the iron's still hot, that type thing.
Yeah, and 100%. And for all my people, I love Brandon. I love Music City 911. It's a great show. I mean, I don't listen personally to a ton of pods, but Brandon's is one of them that I do. And I know that my listeners in the past, last time we did a collab, I turned a bunch of people onto your stuff, and they all loved it like I knew they would. It's compelling stuff, man. It's like I've said before, it's super fascinating. It's like we talked about it a little bit last time. You're dealing with like that moment in people's lives where shit's about as real as you can get. You know what I mean? Like, especially if it's like a real crisis situation and shit's gone down, man. You're just never going to get a realer moment than that. It's as intense as you can get. And you're dealing with it on the front end. So
and you're dealing with the cleanup in the courtroom and then at the tail end of it. Yeah,
exactly. So we got the front and the back covered, brother. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I've read a couple different places. I can't recall if it was on my group or on your discussion group, but, we're the deep voice guys of true crime. So
we're the gravel guys.
Yeah, gravel guys. There you
go. We got those gravelly voices.
There's another t-shirt for you right there.
You goddamn right. Yeah, dude, I love this. But yeah, everybody, all my people, immediately go subscribe to Brando's stuff. It's great. Music City 911 is the bomb. I guarantee you'll love it. It's super addictive. Like once you listen to one, you're ripping through like 6 of them right away.
Yes.
And then you're going through trying to pick like, what do I, because he'll tell you the kind of stuff that like every episode, he'll be like, all right, we're going to deal with this type of situation, like different types of calls that come in. It's all not just like grisly murders. He's got all kinds of stuff in there from like the entire gamut. So it's super fascinating, and it's like really inside dope stuff. So you guys will totally dig it. And if you haven't already done it, do it now.
Yeah. Same thing on my end, Music City 911 listeners, Defense Diaries, The Docket. And now just about watch any type of TV because Bob's on it now. He's hitting everything. I mean, Law and Crime Network, Court TV. I mean, just all over the place. Check out his TikTok is blowing up. Definitely go over to Defense Diaries TikTok if you haven't done that already. Really good stuff on there.
Yeah, it's tiring though, man. It's like I'm burning the candle at both ends though. You know, trying to put all this content out there. It's like if you guys don't know, Brandon still works full time, man, and then spends a massive. Like I can't tell you guys how hard it is to put these podcasts together. Like if you think we're just sitting there and like an idea pops in our head and we decide to stroll down into our little studios and record an hour and then just bloop, it's on the end. No, that's not at all what it's like. It's way more work than that. He's working a full-time gig, being a family man and trying to make the podcast and having it be as good as it is. Like y'all need to understand how much work we put into these things. So we always love when you guys give us the love in our groups and online. It means everything to both of us. So, keep doing that. Make sure if you guys love our pods, give us those reviews. Like all that little stuff that you guys might not think means much. It's the opposite. It means a huge amount to us. And it really helps spread the show, the show out there to the world because that's always our biggest battle, getting the name of the show out to the peoples. Yeah.
We have the best show in the world, but if nobody's listening, nobody knows about it.
That's right. If a tree falls in the forest, nobody's there. Does it make a sound?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, all right, dude, it's been awesome. I'm sure we'll be doing a lot more of these. We always love to hang.
Oh, yeah.
But, all my folks, make sure you go to Brando and you'll love his stuff. And, as far as I go, like I always say to my people, without y'all, I'd just be an old man talking about an old case.
That's pretty good.
Talk at you next time. Yeah. That's my end. That's my end thing. So, all
right. Yeah. And mine's always, y'all have a good one. So,
yep.
Y'all have a good one.
All right.
All right. See you.
Take care, brother. See ya.